Professor, you say this is a policy that they are taking very seriously. My question is, at what stage of the game are we in?
Well, I think things are, the train's on the track, and you never can really know in Washington how fast that you're going to end up arriving at and when you're going to arrive at the station. But it's pretty heavy duty lift. It's interesting. It's the same kind of thing. Nobel laureate Robert Mundell and I were advising the Chinese on about 15 years ago. Their concern was how can we internationalize and spread the use of the Chinese currency, the yuan or RMB, and we advised them on that. Now I'm in the same exercise really with the Trump administration, and I'm coming at it from a lot of experience and writing. I think I've written 24 books on this topic. So it's not only an academic exercise, I've actually been involved in the architect of two dollarizations. One in Montenegro in 1999, I was a state counselor and the chief advisor to the president of the time, Djukanovic. And we dumped the Yugoslav dinar, the Serbian dinar, it was called at the time. Remember, Montenegro was part of the rump Yugoslavia. It was Serbia and Montenegro at the time. And the currency was the Serbian dinar. It was hyperinflating, so we got rid of that and replaced it with the German mark. And then shortly thereafter, in 2000, I did the same thing in Ecuador. Yep. We got rid of the sucre and replaced it with the dollar. But there are other ways. So that's one way to spread the use of the dollar. You just get rid of a domestic currency and replace it with the greenback. So that's one way. The other way is what's called a currency board, and I've done 5 of these actually. Argentina had kind of a quasi currency board, not the real thing, in 1991. And in that case, the peso was issued, and it was backed 100% with U.S. dollar reserves, and the peso became a clone. It traded at a fixed exchange rate with the U.S. dollar, and so it was a clone of the dollar. You keep with a currency board, you keep the local money, but it trades at a fixed exchange rate with the anchor currency, which in this case would be the U.S. dollar, and it's credible because you have to have 100% U.S. dollar reserves backing up the domestic currency that you're issuing. So in that case, these clones of the U.S. dollar would exist, and they'd be clones because they'd be backed 100% with U.S. dollar reserves. Now the third way, so those are all governmental in the sense that the U.S. dollar under full official dollarization is legal tender. It's a unit of account. It's the way you pay your taxes, the way you keep your books and so forth. If it's a currency board, the local currency that's issued and backed by the dollar, that's legal tender. And then there's another way, and that is with stablecoins. If you have a dollar-based stable coin, and it's let's say you follow the regulations of the Genius Act in the United States. In principle, it's a private currency board because you're issuing a token. It's backed 100% with U.S. dollar reserves, and it is trading at a fixed exchange rate, the token with the U.S. dollar. But that's private, and that wouldn't be legal tender. So that's different than a currency board. That's a government entity, a private entity. Whatever tokens they issue, they aren't legal tender, and the regulations and so forth are a little bit different under the Genius Act than the currency board, which I know all about this because I've designed them and written the laws for these currency boards. And, Estonia, Lithuania, Bulgaria, Bosnia, Herzegovina. So that's where the background is. It's a serious strategy that's being thought through and developed. Let me stress, there's been no decision on this. I mean, Trump will decide, basically. At the end of the day, Trump will do what Trump does. He will decide.
I want us to take a step back because it is such a gift to have you on the show, given how you are in the room and multiple rooms of where it has happened and is happening. My question is, how concerned are they about the greenbacks erosion here in terms of global dominance? Are they for them to call you in and be like, look, we need a strategy or we need to stop this? If you had to rank their level of concern here, what would it be?
Well, let's put it this way. It's the de-dollarization, especially led by China, Russia, and the members of BRICS or the global South. That kind of thing is something that's on the radar screen. Otherwise, they would have never called me if they didn't have a concern. I don't know. You're asking me, well, how do you rate the level of concern? Well, let's put it this way: who was meeting with me? We had members of the President's Council of Economic Advisors, members of the National Security Council, members of the National Economic Council, White House staffer, and the U.S. Treasury. So I would say that's a pretty big phalanx of people, and we're talking about people who are professionals. These are the experts. These meetings are like a graduate seminar. These people are prepared. They're asking a lot of questions, and I think I answer all the questions adequately and prepared documents for them, and ultimately was given homework assignments. And the homework assignment, one of the homework assignments was, well, Hanke, you think this is such a great idea and so forth. Give us a list of the countries that are potential. I went through a screening exercise with, I think I had 8 metrics, and I put everything into the metrics, and I looked at over 200 central banks, 200 currencies that exist in the world, and filtered everything out and came down to, they have all the rankings, but let's say the top 50 would be prime candidates. Now, 2 I gave off the top of my head in the first meeting. One obvious one is Argentina, and another one is Lebanon. 2 countries that I've worked a lot on, especially Argentina. I mean, after all, in Argentina, I was advising President Menem from 1989 to 1999, and his Minister of Economy, Domingo Cavallo, in 1995 and 1996. So, and just a footnote, I know a little bit about Argentina because I was the president of Toronto Trust Argentina in Buenos Aires. In 1995, it was the best performing emerging market mutual fund in the world. So that's there's some background.
Yeah, well, obviously, for me, the obvious candidate would be Argentina. Now, they have said that there has been, I mean, they've basically squashed any talks that this is happening, but they are an obvious candidate.
Well, they're a candidate because the candidate, President Milei, before he became president, what was his primary objective was to mothball the central bank and the peso and put them in museums and dollarize, officially dollarize, and And I think that was one of the main reasons he was elected president. Then the thing got kind of shoved to the back burner, and it was shoved that way primarily by the International Monetary Fund. Argentina is the biggest debtor to the International Monetary Fund that's out there, and right away after the election, the IMF came in and said, this isn't a good idea. We're opposed to it. That's the same thing they did with us in Ecuador, by the way.
And why did the U.S. step in to calm the situation in Argentina?
Well,
so all this timing just makes me think, well, they want this chummy relationship. They want them to dollarize.
Well, it gets a little bit complicated in the sense that we're meeting and discussing an overall kind of, shall we say, global strategy to counter the de-dollarization movement with a pro-dollarization movement. Okay, so that's going on. I'm working on that, and then all of a sudden, predictably, and I said this was going to happen, they had yet another peso crisis erupted in Argentina. And at that time, the U.S. just immediately stepped in and said, you know, we've got a bazooka and we're going to do everything we can to bail out and support Argentina and Malay specifically, because of course Trump is a pal of Malays, and he sees Malay as some like-minded soul who is potentially pushing back the pink tide, pushing back the left in South America. You've got Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela, and others. That's the pink tide, and so the idea is the U.S. would be supporting Malay in Argentina because he's anti-pink tide.
Now the question is, Professor, would it be enough? Let's say let's play out the scenario that they get 2-3 other countries to dollarize. I guess the question is, how many countries will it take to stop a de-dollarization trend?
Oh, I think for one thing, if Argentina dollarized, there'd be a wave of dollarizations occurring. I mean, I think you'd essentially end up with virtually all of South America being dollarized.
Interesting.
Either with a currency board or with official dollarization. So the currency board, remember, they keep their own local currency. The currency is a clone of the U.S. dollar, backed by the U.S. dollar 100%. That's one option. The other option is we just get rid of the local currency like we did in Ecuador. And by the way, like they did in El Salvador a year after we did it in Ecuador, El Salvador, Manuel Hines was the architect of that. And it works perfectly. And then we've got another country in Latin America, Panama. It's been dollarized for over 100 years. We're talking about official dollarization.
Understood.
Latin America is de facto dollarized anyway, because anything in Latin America of any value that's traded, any asset, you need dollars. And they've got more dollars under the mattress than you can shake a stick at. Remember, about 70% of all the U.S. notes, physical notes, U.S. dollar notes, reside overseas. They don't reside in the United States.